Good afternoon dear students. How are you all? Hope you are fine and safe at your homes, and at the same time you are busy now preparing for your first PT1 coming from 25th of May. So I hope you all know the blueprint, you all know the syllabus, and you have started preparing accordingly for your exams. So let us discuss again before starting the revision. Today we are starting with the first chapter and I will be taking only the revision only. We are not going to start any new concept till your exams. So let us discuss, although I have already sent you this in your groups. So let us just recall it once. For your SST paper, we have a syllabus of 3 chapters, that is one from history, one from civics and one from your geography. First chapters of 3. So blueprint, what it says, your first question will be based on MCQs, that is multiple choice questions, and it will be of 5 marks. Just as we have done multiple choice questions in between of the subtopics that we were taking, and also you have at the end of your chapter. So same way you will be asked multiple choice questions, but then please remember you have to read the chapter thoroughly, because your exam will be based on objective type of questions and it can be content based. Any question can be asked based on multiple choice, fill in the blanks, true or false, or very short answer based on the chapter that we have read. So please don't say later on that we have not done in the notebook, because when we have taken the chapter I have explained you everything. So any line can be framed into a question, be it in the form of MCQ, be it in the form of fill up, or very short answer, one word answer, or even true or false. So you have to be very attentive while reading the chapter. That is why we ask you to attentive, and it is very difficult to cram all the things in subject like SST, where the things are in so much detail. So when you understand the thing, there is no need to cram and it sets in your mind for your entire life. So you can remember it just throughout your life if you have listened to your teacher carefully, if you have read the chapter thoroughly line by line and understood the thing what is said in the line. So second is your fill-ups, that will be for 3 marks, and it can be again, as I told, content based. Number 3, you have your true false, which is again for your 3 marks. This is total of 20 marks paper you have in all. Coming to the fourth question, that is your very short type. It can be one line or one word answer even, which is again for 3 marks. So total it is 5 plus 3, 8 plus 3, 11 plus 3, 14 marks. Coming to your last question, that is your short answer type question, or you can say answer in brief. So this entire part will be 6 marks, in which you will be asked 2 questions of 3 marks each. So only 2 questions I have given you, since it is for 20 marks, and it will be of 3 marks each. So total it comes to 6 marks, and if you calculate it will be of 20 marks in all. So these are the 5 types of questions that we have set for your question paper. So I hope there is no doubt now in the type of question paper that you will be asked. So this is what you need to prepare. Just take into account this blueprint and you can prepare accordingly. But please don't leave anything, since we have also not left anything. And this time I have not given you any of the map work, since I am getting messages from the parents that ma'am, shops are closed and we are not able to purchase the map. So I am holding it for the next exam, but then definitely you have to paste it in your notebooks. If it is of history, then in the history section. If geography, then in the geography section. So this is all for blueprint that I want you to discuss. So let's start with the revision of first chapter of history today. So let's begin with first chapter. So let us start with the first chapter of history, that is an approach towards the past. So you can just open your books. Sideways I will be telling you in which paragraph which question can be framed. So let us quickly recall the concepts that we have done, and I have started this chapter by giving you an example of your family album. It sometimes happens that you come across your family album and you see so many past memories captured in the form of pics in the album. You come to know what type of life was being led by your grandparents, your father, mother, what type of clothing style was there, what type of hairstyle was there by looking at the pictures, then who all were there in your family, what members, how many members were there, so your relations with different members of the family. So all these, the information that you collect by looking at the album of your family is what for you it is history. So any information that we collect from the past events is nothing but it is history. So we have started with the meaning of history. History is a combination of two words which means description of the past, and we have discussed how the word history has been derived. So let us take paragraph wise. So in the first paragraph, if I talk about, we have discussed the meaning of history, that is any collection of past information is history. So it's in the first line, knowledge that is gained from the past is what? It is history. So it is 1 mark question. It can be your, if I can say one sentence answer, what is history, or you can even say knowledge that is gained from the study of past is dash. So it can be fill in the blank, that is history. So this way you need to frame different types of questions from the lines that I have made you underline while we were reading the chapter. And these recap video from that we are starting from today can be a help to those students for the new admission, especially those who have missed our previous videos. So next, if I talk about the people who describe the past are historians. Another important question that we have done in this paragraph are, who are historians now? So again 1 mark question can be there. Who are historians? What you will write, please underline. The people who describe the past, or the people who study the past and reach their conclusion, are known as historians. So what is history? Study of the past, and the persons who studied the past, they are known as historians. So again, meaning you can say, or it can be in the form of filler, the people who describe the past are dash, or who are historians. So it can be either way, either a fill in the blank form or your one word answer or one line answer, that is very brief answer. So these two terms come in the first paragraph, that is meaning of history and a historian. Next we have importance of history. So in this we have done 3 to 4 points. What is importance of history? It links the past and the present. It tells us of the mistakes that our ancestors has made so that we don't repeat the same mistake. And this way we have done the importance of history, which can be a long question which can be asked for 3 marks. So it is just either a short question, can be asked for 2 marks also, in which you need to mention the 2 points, and if it is 3 marks, then please mention the 3 points. So this way this is one big answer. So let us see what is the importance of history. We come to know about the kingdoms. Who were the rulers that have ruled? Who were the people who have invaded our country, who had battled with our countries, and why? What were the reasons and the consequences of these battles? What were the dynasties of the civilizations that came into existence, and the places where they have come into existence? So all these dynasties, about the kings, about the rulers, about the dates, we come to know from history. So that is why history is very, very important. So we come to know about kingdoms, dynasties, kings and leaders by studying history. It also deals with the lives of people, ordinary people especially, who have shaped the pages of history. So we also come to know from history only what type of life was led by the primitive man in the past years. What type of clothes they used to wear, what type of food they used to eat, Where do they live? In the caves, in the forest, in the jungles, on the tree? What type of animals they used to hunt? How they used to just start making the huts? How they discovered fire? So all these your questions are answered through study of history. So that is why history is very, very important. The knowledge gained from the study of history is important to understand both the past and the present. So both are interrelated. When you know something about the past, only then you can build your present and the future. So it acts as a link between the past and the future. So history is again important. How? Whatever is happening today will be history tomorrow, obviously, for your generations, for the coming generations. Each one of us is adding something big or small to our history, our family's history, and of course our country's history. So whatever is happening, all the wars that are being taking place, like we have tense relations, we can say, with India and Pakistan, and we don't know when there can be a possibility of third world war. So if a third world war breaks in the country, then it will be history for our coming generations. Now the diseases, the epidemics, that are the natural calamities that we have talked of, like earthquakes, floods. So we have one more pandemic disease these days, that is coronavirus, we call it COVID-19. So it is again a history for our coming generations. So all this is what connecting the link between the present and the past. What all events have happened, what have they led to, the problems that have came as a result to these consequences. So this is what a relation between the past and the present, and that is why history is again important. So history guides people to set goals and tells them not to make the same mistakes. So we learn from the past events, like we know many more things about COVID-19. So whenever future generations will come, they can just recall the past events, they can collect information from the past events, and they can decide, they can take a step that they don't have to repeat the same thing just as people are moving out. So they will learn that they don't have to move out of their homes when such pandemic disease is being spreading all over the India or the country. So they will come to learn from the mistakes that their ancestors have made in the past. So that is why history is very, very important. Okay, we understand the continuous development of human beings by studying history. Then the continuous development of human being is just known to you by studying history only. Man, keeps on evolving. Do the growth of man ever stop? Does his brain ever stop thinking? No. Does he ever stop thinking for a moment? No. So this means his growth is a continuous process, as his ideas, views, thoughts, they are also continuously coming up in his mind. So that is why history is important, because it tells about the continuous development of the human being. It tells what type of developments human have made in the past, in the 10 years back maybe, then after 15 years what type of development has been made by him. Like earlier he was not aware of using fire, how to produce fire, he was not aware of uses of wheel. Then with the discovery of wheel, with the discovery of fire, he started cooking food. He found that food tastes more delicious when he starts cooking it on the heat, on the fire, on the flame. Then he can scare away wild animals by lighting a fire. He can keep himself warm in the cold climate. So all these things, the developments we keep on discovering when we study the past events, that is history. Then after that, what development was there after the invention of the wheel? People started growing crops, then they started settling at one place. From food gatherers, hunters and nomads, they became permanent settlers. Then another development was there, that they started trade in the form of barter system with their neighboring and even the foreign countries. So all these are what? One after another, one development after another. So this is why history is important. We can easily understand the basic nature of a society by studying history. We study why people behaved the way they did, how and why they fought or cooperated or built forts. So we also study history because we want to know the life that was led by the previous man. What type of life was led by the man? why he had walls, why he built forts and palaces, what was the need of building those forts and palaces, what was the need of those coins that were used by the kings for the inscriptions. So all these things we come to know only by studying history. So this is what is importance of history. This very important question. Then we have been given one yellow paragraph in which we have discussed about Herodotus, who is known as father of history. So it can be important one word answer, who is known as the father of history. So you will write Herodotus, or it can be Herodotus is father of history. I can give you multiple choice questions, or I can say Megasthenes is known as father of history. I can say even any of the Chinese traveler like Huang Ho, or I can say Huizang as known as the father of history. So I can give you in the form of multiple choice questions also. And Dash is known as father of history in the form of Philip, or who is the father of history, so in the form of very brief answers. So this way you have to frame the answers. And that was all that we have studied. Then origin of the word history from the Greek word historia, which means knowing or learning by inquiry. So what is the meaning of history and from where does it come from? So I can ask you from where do you derive the word history? So it will be just your one line answer, very short type, that it is derived from combination of Greek words historia, which means that it is a description or knowing or learning about the past or inquiry about the past. So it is the meaning of history. Then you have the division of past, that is it is divided into two periods. One is prehistory and the other period we call it as history. So now prehistory and history, again you have the meaning of these two terms. History we have already done, but then they have compared these two terms. Like you can be asked what is the difference between prehistory and history. So this way also I can ask you this question, what is the difference between prehistory and history? So you will say prehistory is the time or period for which we don't have any written records, whereas history is the period for which we have the written records. So this is the difference between prehistory and history, or simply it can be one mark question. What is prehistory? What is history? Or in the form of fill-up, prehistory is dash, history is dash. That is my wish. Anyway, I can frame your questions. So let us see. It is the period of human development when writing had not been invented by man and human beings did not know how to read and write. So in simple terms, when we had no written record, so that is the period of prehistory, when man did not know how to learn, how to read and write. So we don't have anything in the written form as a proof. So that is period of prehistory. Whereas when men started learning reading and writing, be it on palm leaves, be it on the barks of the trees, or be it on the leaves of the trees, but then we had some written records in the form of manuscripts. So that time period is known as history. So this is the difference between two. It can be asked in either way. To understand prehistory, archaeologists dig deep into the ground and collect remains of the past. So now, how do we come to know about the period of prehistory? What proofs do we have, and who are the people who brings or come to the conclusion, who tells us about the things that have taken place in the past? So these persons we have done are known as archaeologists. Who are archaeologists? Archaeologists are the persons who study or they dig the ground and they do the job of detectives to reach their final conclusion. So they just study the art of digging the ground. So we have done who are archaeologists, or archaeologists are the persons. So this way it can be asked. These archaeological remains can be in the form of tools, in the form of weapons, in the form of bones that has been found by digging the ground. So the work is of archaeologist. Okay. History is the period for which written records are available. This covers the time period after the invention of writing. Early writings was done on the barks of the birch trees, clay tablets, palm leaves, copper plates and rock pillars. So we have all discussed these things where the writings were used to be, wherever they used to live, like on the leaves of the trees, on the branches or the barks of the trees, on the walls of the rocks where they used to live, on the walls of the caves where they used to live. So all these, the findings are there from the side of archaeologists. They have found in the form of handwritten scripts that we have done, that is manuscripts. What is manuscript? Again, one mark question. A manuscript is a writing in the handwritten form. So, where was the early writing done? So, your answer will be on the birch trees, clay tablets, palm leaves, copper plates and rock pillars. The knowledge gained from the study of history is important to understand the present or the past, or both present and past. So, your answer should be both the past and the present. History can be divided into prehistory or history, history and chemistry, or none of these. So, it is divided into two periods, that is prehistory and history. So, this way multiple choice questions can be framed. Next we have sources of history. Now from where do we get to know about the things that were used by the primitive man? So the sources of history are again divided into two. So the difficult question now is how we can know about something that took place thousands of years ago. A very simple answer to this difficult question is that we learn about the past from the remains which people of that period have left behind. So I have already told you that the things that the archaeologists have dug from the ground in the form of levels, like the things that were used, they get buried deep into the level and we call it as level 1, then after that level 2, 3, 4 and the 5, and the top level is of the level of the modern period, we can say. Then the lowest level, that is level 1, we call it as the ancient period. So this way they just find out the things that the people have used in the ancient time. So sources of history we have done. We have done two types of sources of history, that is archaeological sources of history and what are literary sources of history. So it can be asked in the form of definition, what are literary sources of history, what are archaeological sources of history. So under archaeological sources of history, which can be one question, simply what are archaeological sources, or what are the archaeological sources of history. So you will explain all the 3 points that we have done in the form of inscriptions, in the form of manuscripts and in the form of monuments or coins also we have done. So archaeological sources are direct evidences. What are archaeological sources? They are direct evidences for which we have proof. Evidence means proof, because we know that archaeologists have dug it from the ground and found it from the ground, and it was the remain of the people that they have used in the daily life. So they have a significant effect on the writing of history. They cannot be changed or altered by a human being. Can you change anything that has been dug from the ground? No, we cannot change that thing. It is to be in that shape only, that pattern only. So they are physical evidences that are available. Artifacts. So it can be in the form of artifacts number 1. Now what are artifacts? Again 2 marks question it can be. The objects of different kinds made by humans. So artifacts are nothing if we talk of. So first is archaeological source, and the second one is literary source that we'll talk. But under this also, first one is artifact. Now what is artifact? Artifact, as the name suggests, it is an object that was used and made by man himself. So whatever pots we have found, whatever jewelry we have found, whatever things that were used by and made by the men is known as artifact. So for example, things like metal objects that were used by and made by him, pottery, tools, weapons, ornaments, jewelry and sculptures, murti. So all these things are known as artifacts. They give us important clues and help us in understanding the cultural life of the past. By looking at these artifacts, or things or objects, we can come to know of the culture of those people. The objects found at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro throw light on the developmental aspects of the age. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro are 4,000 years old cities along the banks of the river Indus. So we have discussed which is the first river around which the civilization developed. It is river Indus. And Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, from out of these two cities, Harappa is the first city that has been excavated around the river Indus, and that is why Indus Valley civilization is also known as Harappan civilization, that we will be discussing in the coming chapters. Next, about monuments. So the second archaeological source is monument. Now what is monument? Old buildings, ruins of old buildings, temples, stupas, mosques, tombs, caves, palaces and old settlements. So all these buildings that have been built by men for their use or for any religious purpose, they are known as monuments, that is building. So, and they provide important information of a past heritage, and hence they are called monuments. We all might have seen Ajanta and Ellora caves in the Aurangabad. If I talk about, then other forts are there, like Red Fort is there, Qutub Minar is there, then we have monument like Taj Mahal in Agra. So these historical buildings, they also tell us much about the culture of that time. As you can see the picture of stupa. So archaeological excavations at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, Kot Diji, Ropar, Mehergarh and several other sites have proved that a plant civilization existed in Indus Valley civilization 5,000 years ago. So we will be reading the Indus Valley civilization in detail that existed 5,000 years ago, and our archaeologists have found so many things from these sites which are situated in some of the cities like Lothal we have in Gujarat, and if I talk about Ropar in Punjab, then Kalibangan is there in Rajasthan, Mehergarh is there in Pakistan. So different sites or places are there from where our archaeologists have found traces of the things that were used by men. Then something about coins. The third source is coins. Coins were issued by the kings, and they were used to inscribe the religious preachings of the kings. So kings used coins to just tell the time period from the king ruled and which king ruled. So that is also mentioned on the coin. If you just happen to see any of the previous age coins with your grandparents or with your forefathers, if you find it, please see, just note the picture of the king that is made, which king has ruled and from which period till how many years he has ruled. Everything will be mentioned on that coin, and sometimes it have inscriptions of the preachings in the seals. If I talk about, seals are also there, which has been used by the kings to just give a religious message to the people. So these things were used by the primitive man. Coins are valuable source of information. These coins are made up of gold, silver, copper, as we know. You might have seen in your homes also, we have gold coins, silver coins, copper coins. So these are the metals that have been used, and you can see gold coin, you can see here silver. So something is inscribed on this. So it is, what is it showing? Mohar of Akbar is inscribed on it. Then punch marked coin it is. Then it is Indo-Greek coin with a picture of Greek king. So this way you will find the things. They tell us about the economy of the kingdom, the periods of rulers and trade activities with other religions. So the coins describe all these things. What was the period for which the rulers have ruled, what type of trade activities were there between the regions, because when we travel to their other country, we always bring their currency in our country, so we come to know what with which countries we had the trade relations, and when others, the foreign travelers, they come to our country, then they take our currency to their country, and then it becomes a source of information for them also. So this way there is exchange of trade relations. Then we have inscriptions. Next we have inscriptions. Again, it is an archaeological source, I have already told you. Okay, what are inscriptions now? Inscriptions are written records engraved on rocks, metal pillars, copper plates, cave walls, walls of temples and palaces, and even on clay tablets. So what is this? It is a writing basically on any of the hard substance, like on the clay tablet, it can be on the stone, it can be on the pillars, it can be on the rocks, it can be on the copper plates that were used, and even it can be on the walls of the cave where the people used to live. So it is just a writing on the hard substance. Inscriptions provide us important information about events, rulings and declarations of ancient rulers. So you can see here inscriptions, they have been inscribed on the walls of the caves. So these are what inscriptions. They deal with the administration and the personal qualities of the kings. Even the qualities of the kings are sometimes inscribed or written on the walls. They also provide us with important dates of coronation, specimen of art and relation with neighboring and distant rulers. So at what time we had trade relations with the other countries, even that you find by reading some inscriptions. Then you have the second source, that is literary source. So now let us see what is literary source. Again, it is of two types. So it will be secular literature and it will be religious literature. So let us see now. So next we have the literary sources which are of two types, that is we have secular literature and then we have religious literature. So it will be secular and religious literature. It can be a separate question also, what is secular literature, what is religious literature. Then you can be asked as a combination of what are the literary sources in which you will describe these two both. So it will be a long answer. So you can even be asked a lengthy answer, what are the sources of history. So you will mention two sources of history. It will be a very lengthy answer, that is the three archaeological sources that we have done, in which you will mention the coins, inscriptions, the monuments. Then you will mention the literary sources, that is religious and secular literature as together. So it can be lengthy answer also. And then we have the subheadings as secular literature and religious literature. So now what is literary source? Whatever our ancestors wrote in the written form, in the form of an evidence, so these are what literary source, and it was done on the Bhojpatra, that is on the big leaves on which they used to eat. So that was used as a source in which on which they used to write, since they don't have the paper in the previous period, or on the dried barks of the trees. So they also wrote on solid rock stone, copper plates, rock pillars and tablets. I have already told you where they used to live. So they used to write on the walls of the rocks, on hard substances like copper plates that were used by them, then the rock pillars and the tablets. So it is from these records that our history is made. Handwritten records of the past in the form of books are known as manuscripts. So what are manuscripts? They are simply the handwritten records of the past, and the different leaves when you write on, then you just tie it with a thread. So it is in the form of a book, and that book in the form of a handwritten record is used to be known as manuscript. Script means something in written form, manu means handwritten. These accounts of contemporary events help us in knowing our past and provide us information about customs, religious beliefs and cultures of the people. Then this is of two types. Literary source is of religious literature and secular literature, two types. What is religious literature now? Obviously, as the name suggests, related to religion. When we talk of the Jatakas, that is the tales of the Buddhas, the stories which Buddhist people have written describing the lives of the Buddhas. Then the Vedas that we have, the Upanishads that we have, the four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Tharva Veda, then Upanishads, 108 Upanishads that we have, then the Tripitakas, Vipvamas, Mahasamavas, Jatakas, all these are what religious books. So then you have secular literature, that is writings which are not religious, obviously. They are known as secular literature. So what are these? These include the historical accounts and biographies written by poets and foreign travelers. So these are nothing but the biographies that have been written by the poets and the historical accounts of the ruler, or even the foreign travelers who happen to visit the other country. So they just record the things that we have seen over there in the form of writing, and that book is known as travelogue. So that account, foreign account, also is known as secular literature. So they were written to record happenings, events, administrative setup, rules and declarations by the kings. And one such example is the Arthashastra book that was written by Kautilya. And then you have travelers' accounts which include secular literature. A number of foreign travelers who visited India from time to time left very important and social accounts of the country in their travelogues. Megasthenes, for example, lived in India for some time as the Greek ambassador at the court of Chandragupta Maurya. He wrote the book named as Indica. So you have one important question here. Name the book that was written by Megasthenes. So it will be Indica. So it can be in the form of true and false. The book written by Megasthenes is known as, you can say, any other name of the book you can call Bhagavad Gita, so it will be wrong, false answer. So this way it can be either true or false, it can be multiple choice question, or it can be one word answer. So this way you have to just go through the chapter thoroughly. So I'll stop here today. I'm not going to take anything more. So just go through the things that we have done and just try to learn them out. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay home.